Just ahead on CTV News, a double shooting in Forestville leaves one dead. Plus, lawmakers are pushing for more security at abortion clinics. And high school basketball playoffs is in full swing around the county. Those stories and more, up next.
Good evening, I'm Byron Scott with the CTV News Update. Well, a shooting in Forestville leaves one man dead, two others injured. Officers were called to the Penmar Apartments on the 3700 block of Donnell Drive in Forestville for the report of a shooting just before 9 o'clock last night. That's where they found 29-year-old Devon Brooks of Camp Springs inside a stairwell, suffering from gunshot wounds. Brooks was pronounced dead at the scene. Police also discovered a second person with a gunshot wound to the arm hiding in a second-floor apartment. Police say a third person was injured but not shot. This is the second deadly shooting this year at this apartment complex. Anyone with information is asked to contact police at 1-866-411-TIPS. And President Biden delivers his third State of the Union address tonight. In that speech, Biden is expected to lay out his economic vision, discuss reproductive rights, the state of democracy, and the need to pass aid for Ukraine. With the 2024 election in full swing, this will be a key opportunity for Biden to make his case for a second term to the American people.
I think you're going to have a very successful president come before the Congress of the United States and, more importantly, the American people and say, this is what we have done. This is what I said I would do. This is what we have done. My opinion is President Biden had probably the two most successful years, perhaps, of any president in the 43 years that I've been in the Congress of the United States. Just a remarkable list of achievements to invest in America and make the lives of Americans better.
Biden is also expected to announce an emergency military mission to construct a port in the Mediterranean Sea on Gaza's coast to allow humanitarian aid to reach the decimated region. Well, Governor Wes Moore nominates a former local elections board member to fill one of two Republican seats on the state board of elections. Diane Butler of Ellicott City was a member of the Howard County Board of Elections until June of last year. If confirmed, Butler would fill the vacancy left by Carlos Ayala. He resigned in January after being indicted for allegedly taking part in the January 6th insurrection. Butler will face the Senate Executive Nominations Committee on Monday. She must be confirmed by the full Senate before taking her spot on the board. Now, in a statement released on Wednesday, the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, said President Joe Biden's State of the Union address tonight is his best and perhaps last chance to announce concrete steps in support of permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The Guardian reported the protest against Biden gained more traction on Super Tuesday as voters in several states sought to send a message to the president to support a permanent ceasefire. CAIR is the nation's largest Muslim civil rights advocacy organization. Well, Maryland's Child Victims Act survives a constitutional challenge in Maryland courtroom. The law allows survivors of childhood sex abuse to file lawsuits regardless of when the abuse occurred. The ruling came as part of a pending class action lawsuit against the Archdiocese of Washington. The Archdiocese arguing in court that lawmakers could not retroactively remove the statute of limitations. The church says it intends to appeal the decision to the Maryland Supreme Court. Well, two Maryland senators sponsored bills aimed at improving security at abortion clinics statewide. Senator Kelly Elfreth is sponsoring a measure that would create a reproductive health care clinic security grant program. Another bill, which is sponsored by Ariana Kelly, will create the Abortion Care Access Grant Program and Fund. Both measures come as threats and harassments have increased at clinics since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade back in 2022.
But, the important thing is that money is there. It's being collected. We have no control over that. That's part of the federal law. It has to be collected, and it's sitting there not being spent. Meanwhile, we have this pretty urgent situation, and we have people who are here who can speak to the crisis sort of with funding for abortion funds and the fact that both our clinics need access to funding for security programs and our patients need access to care.
Both bills have been cross-filed in the House. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Byron Scott. A bill that would determine who can serve as a police officer in Maryland is weakening in Annapolis, and the AARP is in Annapolis for Lobby Day. Don't go away. Those stories and more up next.
remember seeing St. Jude commercials on TV and wondering, like, is that place legit? Like, those commercials are nice, but is that like a real thing? And having lived it, I can say for sure that that money is being put to incredible use. I've never once had to wait for insurance to approve a test or approve a medication. We didn't have to worry about any of those things thanks to the donations. And our family is forever grateful because it's completely changed our lives.
Welcome back. Several progressive leaders are pushing Maryland lawmakers in Annapolis to pass a tax loophole package. 3 county executives are in support of a bill that would require combined reporting for corporations that conduct business in the state. The leaders joined the advocacy group Fair Share Maryland yesterday in support of the package. Another measure would increase taxes on anyone making $1 million a year. The full proposal could potentially bring in about $1.6 billion in tax revenue. And a measure that would expand the eligibility of those who could serve as police officers in Maryland is languishing in committee. Senate Bill 48 would remove certain citizenship requirements for those who are permanent legal residents of the U.S. and honorably discharged veterans. The measure would also apply to current members of the National Guard, Army National Guard, the Air National Guard, or reserve eligible to be certified as a police officer.
A shortage of police officers, which is affecting our community's public safety, and one of the solutions to that is allowing veterans who have been honorably discharged but are not yet citizens to apply to become police officers.
This is just another pathway, another opportunity for them to be included and serve in communities that they know. You know, a lot of these folks, particularly DACA recipients, are children that arrived here and have been part of our communities since their arrival. And so the ability for them to serve our country should allow them the ability to serve our communities or our police forces.
Both versions of the bill have been sitting in their respective committees since last January when the hearings were held. Well, the Maryland Senate approves a measure that gives legal protections for gender-affirming care. Under the bill, the same criminal and civil protections offered by the state for abortions would be granted. That means the judge would not be able to order someone in Maryland to provide testimony or produce documents for cases pending in other states. Maryland enacted a law last year to protect information relating to abortion procedures after other states banned or restricted the procedure. The measure now goes to the House, where a similar bill has been introduced. Well, according to AARP, more than 60% of voters in Maryland are over the age of 50. 850,000 of those are members of the advocacy organization. Today, many of those were in Annapolis for the organization's Lobby Day, where they connected with lawmakers. They gathered in Annapolis to make their voices heard. They are members of AARP, and today is Lobby Day.
We've been working on some utility issues. If people can't age in place or they can't live in their homes, they have to have affordable utilities. One bill that we've been working on is Senate Bill 1 from Senator Augustine, which would roll in some of these third-party suppliers that charge more. They give them a teaser rate in the beginning, and then they give them, then it goes to a variable rate, and that can expand their benefit, their utility rate by 20, 30, 40% more than what if they would have stayed with the default.
Of the 70 or so in Annapolis today, most are from Prince George's County.
As we are aging now, we want to stay in our homes.
Catherine Williamson is president of the state's largest AARP chapter in Suitland.
Some supplement to help caregivers, because most of us are family that take care of our loved ones. So that's very important.
Officials say they are focused on issues like prescription drug affordability and caregiver tax relief.
We have about 760,000 caregivers in Maryland, and we want to give them some relief. We want them to realize, or them to know, that the state of Maryland cares about what they're doing, because if they weren't caring for their older relatives, they would be in nursing homes, which is an additional expense for the state, because most of those folks would be getting Medicaid to reimburse them for their stay in nursing homes.
My message to them is that I will continue fighting for them, supporting them.
Delegate Karen Toll says seniors are often a target of porch pirates. She sponsored the Porch Pirate Act of 2024.
It will make it on par with stealing a package from a mailbox. So it's saying it's also a felony if you take a package off your porch. It's the same crime.
Following the meet and greet in the House office building, members walked to the State House to watch today's session and make their presence known.
We'll be working each and every legislator, running after them up and down the State House steps. Well, right now the State House is under construction, but you get my drift, making sure that our priorities are at the forefront.
And the legislative session ends on April 8th. And now a check now with sports with Simon Buggs.
Hey everybody, and coming up soon, a recap of some more high school playoff action. Stay tuned.
The power of the knock is food. Your stew's delicious. I'm 88 years old, and I was with the Ice Capades when I was young. Now, being as old as I am, I lose balance. I don't like ending up this way, but what am I going to do? I got Meals on Wheels for the 5 years that I've been here. It's nice to know they come, and if you feel like talking, you can talk to them. I could talk for forever. They're totally a blessing.
Fans, get excited because it's time for your Thursday Sports Page.
The Bowie High School girls basketball team was in action last night, taking on North Point in this year's playoffs. Beginning with the first quarter, the game started off close, and because the Lady Bulldogs made their free throws and did a nice job of finishing inside, making shots like this runner from number 20 Autumn Welch, this putback layup from guard Damilola Funshow, as well as this tough finish from another guard and Nyla Jennings, the game stayed that way as the Lady Bulldogs were only down 14-12 going into the second quarter. For most of the second quarter, the Lady Bulldogs were able to keep the game close, still only being down by single digits. But in the last 2 minutes of the quarter, the Lady Eagles were able to widen the gap to 10 to close the quarter, and the Lady Bulldogs were now down 32-22 at halftime. In the end, North Point was able to hold off Bowie as the Lady Bulldogs lost the game 64-54. Meantime, over in Springdale, the Flowers girls basketball team matched up against Eleanor Roosevelt. Both teams didn't take long to get their first buckets of the night, as the Lady Jaguars' first came courtesy of a layup from Chizimdi Okonkwo and Roosevelt's from this layup by number 2, Sakira Sterling. But for the rest of the quarter, both teams struggled to shoot the ball, and the first quarter ended with Flowers being up 10-2 on the Lady Raiders. Switching gears to the second quarter, the Lady Jaguars were able to get into more of a groove offensively, hitting more shots like these two mid-range jumpers from guards Alana Joy and Chloe Thomas. And because of this, Flowers was able to jump out to a 30-6 lead by halftime. Moving on to the third quarter, as the Lady Jaguars hit more and more shots, such as this floater from Joy and this jumper from guard Kyla Graham coming off of a pick set by guard and forward London Miller, Flowers ended the third quarter up 54-10, and the Lady Jags would advance to the next round as they routed Roosevelt in the end 70-23.
And that is your Thursday Sports Page. Simon Buggs, CTV Sports.
Thank you, Simon. A quick check now on our 3-day weather forecast tonight. It'll be mostly cloudy. Friday, mostly sunny with a high of 58. Sunday, the rain returns, and Saturday, the rain returns. Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 52 degrees. And that's our news for tonight. I'm Byron Scott. See you tomorrow night at 4:30. Good night.